Hey everybody, it's Anne from Craft Fantastic, and we're going to be making our Royal Hearts Fantastic Art Card Kit. And if you've ordered a kit from us, you're going to get all kinds of great things in this kit to make 5 different cards. And basically, I'm going to go over everything and then I'll show you how to make the cards. But and this it says Friends Always on it. We've got our little signature gem here, which says handmade on it. I love this image. This is, I think it's a magnolia maybe or something. I don't even know what it is. But with a heart, the signature gem. And then we've got these darling leaves, these chartreuse bright bright green leaves, and with our signature gem, and everything that you need to make these kits come in the kit. You just need a fantastic glazing glue and a pair of scissors, and then best friend ever. So the theme is birthday or best friends. You have choices on these images, and then here's one that says happy birthday on it. So this is our Royal Heart Card Kit, and I just want to show you the ingredients. And you get a lot of great stuff in it. So there's, as I said, everything you need: the puffy dots, the super sticky dots, the trays, the glass, the ribbon, the Luxe Line cards, and then the layering materials. And so let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna cut apart our image sheets and sort of set them up by number. All the image sheets have numbers on them or associated with them. This is your cheat sheet to let you know this is card number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I'm going to set this one aside, and this is our cheat sheet. So you just want to rough cut this stuff. This is number 3, 2, and 2. And it doesn't matter what order you cut this out in. So if you're not cutting it out in the same order that I am, don't worry about it. So here's some 2s. And we'll arrange them in order when we're done cutting them out. There we go. And then this is for our little signature gems, and I'm going to talk about that at the end. But I'm just going to cut those off in a strip. And I'm going to set these aside. So we've got a big pile of images here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide them up into piles in terms of the different cards that we're going to be making. So here's number 3, right? 2 is going to go over here. Here's a 4. Here's a 5. And again, it doesn't really matter what order, just get things divided up properly. This is a 1 here. And so now we're going to get started with making our cards. Okay, so we're going to get started with card number 1. And on this one, we're making this really interesting, dynamic, card. And I just love the cabbage roses, and it sort of has a lush look. And then you've got this playful game card, and I think it's a nice juxtaposition together. So this is the card that we're going to be making right now. This is card number 1. So you're going to start with your images. And this is for our piece of glass that we'll make in just a second. So I'm going to set this aside, and I'm going to cut out the images. And those of you who like to cut, some people cut really well, and some people have trouble cutting. You want to make sure, I prefer using a large pair of scissors. You know, I like to, I cut everything, fussy cut everything with a large scissor. I'm just coming around here, and I want to make sure I get the white off, because if you have white, it's not so nice on the edge, and you want to cut it all the way. There we go, just like that. Okay, and there's that first piece, and we'll do the heart next. This particular kit has a lot of more fussy cutting than most of our kits, and it's because we've got these fabulous flowers, and then your flower. And what I like to do is I like to go in and sort of get started, and I sort of take things off in kind of layers almost. You know, I don't get everything. You know, I pass through 3 or 4 times. Okay, so now we're going to glue these down onto their cardstock, and I'm going to need a pink one, or actually 2 pink and our magenta. I guess this is a pinky magenta color, but I'm going to do the craft color with the green, and we're going to do the heart. And I think actually I can fit this on here. So I'm going to use just one. You know, it's conserving. Yeah, I think that's going to work actually. So we just need one, the pink card and the craft card. And I'm going to actually do it this way. And you want to do it, when you're doing it, you want to, and we sell these tape runners on our website, and they're great. I really like this product. This is our friends at Scrapbook Adhesive. And they really, this tape runner works great. Okay, so I'm just gonna take this and glue that down just like that. There we go. And then, and I think I'm gonna do about 1/8 of an inch, a little bit less maybe. And again, at Craft Fantastic, we don't like to measure. I like to do things, and the images dictate how you're gonna cut out the cardstock. So you just trim, trim, trim all the way around, just like this. See, I could sit in front of the TV and watch a really good movie and make cards. I think that would be so much fun. And we've got this, and all right. Just like that, and I think that looks pretty good. And I'm gonna save this larger piece for later because I might use it in another one of my cards. And on this one, and just make sure you give yourself enough room to trim. And you know, you just come around. What's nice about this tape that's sort of cut up, that's not a continuous tape, is that it does have some flexibility around the corners, and that's something that I like to have. There we go. And I've cut in a little bit here. And what I'm going to do, now you could do this on a cutting mat, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to eyeball it and cut it in and meet that little point. There we go. And it's perfect. And I'm just going to shave a little bit off here, and I think I'm going to do a little bit here. And again, we're not striving for perfection. This is a handmade card. We want this to look handmade. It's not something that, you know, is die cut or, you know, that's made by a machine. So, okay. And that's going to fit on here just fine. So I'm going to glue this down like that. Okay. And again, rough cutting. And I'm not resolving this. You know, I'm going in and I'm taking pieces off. Sometimes I'll do this kind of thing, you know, just to get this out of my way here. And what's so nice about doing this technique of making the image dictate what you're cutting out is that you can use any kind of image. I mean, you don't have to have any special tools for this, or you don't need anything but a pair of scissors. So I'm going to start building my card, and the first thing I want to do is grab a one of our card blanks. And I have to tell you, these card blanks are great because they are large. They're A7s, but they're made a little bit small for, so they'll fit into the envelopes with lots of stuff on the top. So they're perfect for, they're not your smaller A6 size cards. I like a larger, more dramatic card. So there's a little bump here, and I have the bump facing inside, and I'm gonna match up those corners, and you kind of force the fold into place because these folds are never perfect. And I'm using my bone folder, and I'm just coming around, and I am working, and I'm really burnishing this down. And I want to work sort of midpoint here. It looks like somebody used that to do something with, but, and we sell bone folders. They're actually made of plastic on the website. They're great. Okay, so we've got our card base, or canvas, if you will. And notice the number 1. And the number 1 actually conforms, or is where this little glass piece is going to go, and I'll show you how to make that in a second. So I'm looking here in terms of, and again, we don't measure. So I want you to notice you've got this angle, this card angled, and the card, you want it to be the same from side to side. And you always want a little more space on the bottom, but I'm just gonna set this up here. So I like where the heart is looking, and I like where the game piece is, and then the flower is gonna go here. The other option you can do if you want to, if you have a pencil, and you always work with a pencil, when you're working with a critical situation, you might want to do a little mark, and you can take that off later. So I'm just marking that with my pencil, the 2 dots, the 2 corners. So I know that that's how this is gonna get laid out here. So I just apply my paper adhesive. And notice how I'm moving the piece around rather than moving around the piece. I got a little extra off the edge here, so I'm just gonna fold that out. And I want the number 1 to be down here on the bottom because I'm gonna cover that up with the piece of glass. And I'm just matching it up with my little dots. And now this sort of tells me now where I'm gonna put the heart, right? Now the heart is elevated, and there's a little, I wanna trim that off. I just wanna take a little nip of this off. There we go. We'll make it a little neater. I'm just gonna round that out a little bit. Yeah, I like that better. There we go. And we're going to use the puffy dots right here. And again, Scrapbook Adhesive, we like their products, we sell their products. And what I wanna do is you wanna get it close enough to the edge that it supports the edge. And you want it, actually I'm gonna pull this one off and put this right in the little point, just like that. Okay, and I'm gonna throw a couple of these in the center for support. You could probably just get away with 1, but I've got them, so I might as well use them. And now we're going to glue this down. Now, of course, you always, it's sort of, what is it? Measure twice, cut once, and that's what we're doing. We're gonna put our placement down, and I'm kind of looking visually at the lines where this is gonna go. Again, you can mark with your pencil, but at this point, I'm not gonna do any marking because I'm just gonna do it with an eyeball. Now, I am short. I'm 5'2", and if I were doing this in my studio, I would stand up and do it because I can definitely see better if I'm looking down. The hardest part is getting these little liner things off. Okay, so now this is just going down, and I'm just eyeballing this, and I think that looks pretty good. That might be off a little bit at the top, but you know what? Again, it's a handmade card. You're not making something that with a machine. Okay, so now with this little flower, what we're gonna do is we're gonna sort of do multi-dimensional. We're gonna put a couple of puffy dots on the outside edge, but we're going to use some of our sticky dots to glue it in underneath the heart. Now, if you were making this and you had them both the same height, it wouldn't be as interesting, number one. And number two, they would sort of get in the way with each other. Now I'm looking at how I'm gluing that down. And what I want to do is visually, I think I want these two leaves to give a little space. I want to tuck under the heart with this. And I think I want to come up just a little bit. I don't want this to match on the bottom, right? Because visually, if things match, I don't think they're as interesting. You could also do something like that if you wanted to, but I like it like this. This is how I'm going to do it. Now, I only need a couple of dots. So I need a dot here. So I'm going to turn it over and hold on to it so I know that's exactly where I want the dot. So that dot now is elevating this edge, right? Because I'm going to tuck this in underneath. And I think I'm going to throw another dot. Actually, I think this is the only dot I'm going to use. I think we'll be okay. I think I'll put one more dot just right here, just to keep the elevation going, right? Because again, I'm tucking this under the edge. Right, okay. And I'm going to take a half of one of our super sticky dots. Now this holds like crazy. If you just used the paper glue, it wouldn't hold because it would eventually pull up because this is pulling on here. And I know that I'm going to be tucking this underneath here, so I hold on to it, I turn it over, and I put the super sticky dot right on there, just like that. So now we've got our super sticky dot where it belongs. We've got our two puffy dots where it belongs. And I'm just going to peel the liners. This orange liner on the super sticky dot is crazy hard to get off. Actually, that one came off pretty easy. And I've got my liners off. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going, and notice how I lead at an angle. I'm not putting it down this way, but I'm leading at an angle. And I'm just going to get, there's a little piece right there. Because I want that to be tucked underneath there. And then I'm going to place it. And then you can even take your bone folder and get in there and push that sticky dot down. That is not going to come up. And then you've got sort of a multi-elevation, and it just creates more interest. And it's like, oh, this little flower's cut off. See, this one isn't sticking. This was done with the tape runner, and it doesn't hold. But the super sticky dot will really hold that, and that's really what you need there. Okay, so now we're going to create our embellishment that's going to go on top of the number one here. And I've got and this is the Craft Fantastic Magic. I have a choice of 4 options here. This is our small round. We have 2 sizes of round in the kit. We want the smaller one for this one. So you want to make sure, test it. Don't use the big round here. No, yes. And this one has a happy birthday, right? So I think I want to try something different. So I think I'm going to go with the BFF. And look at how it just like explodes with color when it has that piece of glass on there. So you want to work on a hard surface. And you want to work on a piece of scrap paper because it can get a little messy. And a Q-tip or a paintbrush or something like that works great because you're going to clean up around the edge. So what you're going to do is, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to rough cut around it. And you want to leave a nice salvage around it, and you'll see why in just a second, because you need a place for this glue to go, and you don't want it to glue to the scrap paper. All right, so I've got my little image here, and you can use family photos. You can use anything that has a, and you're squirting a blob in the center. Not too big, not too much. You want enough so it's going to ooze out the sides. So you're going to take it, and you're going to push down on it. And you'll even see that little air bubbles go away. And that's what, if anyone has trouble with our product, it's because they haven't used enough of the Fantastic Glaze and Glue. Okay, so I'm going to take my Q-tip, and I'm going to clean up around the edge. And at home, you would let this dry, but I'm going to trim it right now. So I'm just going to trim this off all the way around. And I angle in a little bit. There we go. Okay. So now I've got my little embellishment. If you get any of the glazing glue on the top of the glass, go ahead and, you don't want to try to wipe it off, but go ahead and scrape it off with an X-Acto knife. So now I'm going to just position it over this one. And look at how cute that is. And this is where you want to use one of your super sticky dots. You always use that on the glass, because think about it, it's being mailed and you want it to, you need an adhesive that's flexible, that really holds and that is flexible. And this glass doesn't break. If you took a hammer to it, you might break it, but this glass is, we drop it on the floor here all the time, and we have cement floors and it doesn't break. Okay. And I just push that down. Now you're done with card number 1. We're also going to be adding, at the end, I'll show you how to do the little signature gems that tell you that it's handmade. Remember the signature gems that we set aside? You have your choice of handmade or with the little hearts. So that is card number 1. Okay. So now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make card number 2. And I love this one. We've got our little frame with the piece, the jewelry piece, with the bail. And what we did is we turned it upside down and made like a little tassel that goes across the top. And then you've got your 2 flowers, you've got your signature gem here, and then your focal point, which would be the flowers, the cabbage roses, with the twine around it. And this is a super fun little card. I like it visually, and it's a surprise, and it has a nice sentiment. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna grab our images, and you've got your roses, which are here. You've got your 2 flowers, which are here. And then you've got your images for your embellishment here. And I'm going to set this aside because you'll work with this later. So you guys know what you're doing here. You're gonna trim all the paper off. You're trimming up against the edge. You do want to get rid of the white edge. You know, you're getting in there and you're getting it cut off because you don't want to leave a white edge. And now we are going to cut out our flowers. And again, this is sort of a fussy cut. And I like to sort of do this in segments, sort of. You know, I don't get everything the first time around. Just like that. And so now we've got our 2 flowers cut out and our rose piece. And we're gonna use 1 cardstock, the pink. And then I think we can do this on the leftover from card number 2. So we're gonna glue those down on here and cut those out. So I think that looks pretty good. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna clean up our area here, and we are gonna put our card together. So we're using, on this, we're gonna use this twine that you've got, and I'm gonna show you how to do this embellishment with the twine on it first, and it's set up nicely for you. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna use a super sticky dot and put it on the number 2, right? And then you're simply gonna take it, you're gonna peel, and this is the hard part, is peeling this off. And you're going to stick this end on here just like this. Now we're gonna trim that off later. And you're gonna wrap around 1, 2, 3 times, and then come back down. And you'll end up right here. And then just push that on. Now the rest of this you're gonna use for the tassel, this cute little tassel that we're gonna do. And you're just gonna trim that. And this dot will hold it. So this is another time that you wanna use the super sticky dot. I'm just gonna trim that so you're not gonna be able to see this from underneath the embellishment here. So now I've got this piece done, And I might, you might want to adjust this. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect because that's not what we're about here at Craft Fantastic. But it's just like this. And the twine gives it a little dimension, which is nice. So, so now we're going to build our card. We're going to take our card blank. And remember, we're going to, the bump side facing up. Now, keep in mind that this is the larger card, so you've got room to build here. So I'm going to put this right here like this. And I'm going to sort of lay everything out how I want it. And you could turn the flowers this way. I mean, you can turn them however you want. I chose to do it this way. There's a lot of flexibility in these cards. Now, something that you're going to notice is the space here and here. I want a little more space here than up here. Or make it about even, actually. I think that's good. So we're going to so this is going to go on even, maybe just a titch more on the bottom or something, but we want this going uneven. And I'm going to use the tape runner on this. And this is where this nice scrapbook adhesive tape runner comes in handy because little bits come off of it, which doesn't happen all the time with the other tape runners. Okay. And I'm actually going to put tape this way. So I've got a lot of tape on the back here because I really want this to hold. Because it's having to hold because it has the twine on the back. So I'm kind of centering it. I'm definitely centering it side to side and a little bit top and bottom with a little bit more space on the bottom, but it doesn't have to be perfect. And I'm just going to glue that down. Okay. And now we have our little flower embellishments, and I'm going to glue one down here and here. But I want some dimension, right? So I'm going to use the puffy dots. And notice how I get this into the point. And this is going to go in the point here. And this is sort of going to go into the point here. And I think I can fit one here. Maybe not. So I'm going to take this. I'm going to put it back on here. And I'm actually going to cut some of these in half. Leave them on the paper and just pull one off. And I'm going to put a half of one here. There we go, just like that. So I'll do the same thing for this one. Okay, so now I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh, that looks cute, just like that. And this one right here, I think we'll do that like that. Yeah, I think we're going to do it up there. Just like that. So I'm going to take my liners off. And I'm going to push that down. Look at how cute that is. There we go. So now we've got this going, and now we are going to use our little tray, right, and our square glass, and get a piece of scrap paper. Okay, so now we're going to make our piece of glass, and I'm going to look at my images, and on the one that I've already got made, I've got Best Friend Ever, so I want to try a different one. And I think on this one I want to try the heart with the crown on it, hence the name of this kit, Royal Hearts. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave salvage on the edge, right? So I'll set this aside. And I'm just going to go in here and squirt a blob in the center. And on a square, you've got to hit it on the corners because the glazing glue travels in a circle and it doesn't work with the squares unless you get the corners. So I'm pushing down on it. Everything just pops. This is the real fun here, I think. You want to wait until it stops moving around. And then before it dries, you want to get in there and you want to clean up the edge with a Q-tip. And then at home, you're gonna let this dry, but I'm gonna trim this right now. And then on the tray, we're going to use a sticky dot. And you just put that in there, and I just use my thumbnail and just burnish it down. And the hard part, again, is peeling this orange layer off. There we go. Now remember, the little bail is not at the top, but it's at the bottom. So remember that it's at the bottom. So I'm just gonna take this and pop this in just like this. Right? And now we need to make the little tassel, right? Because we're going to put our little tassel on here. And the way we're gonna do that is we're gonna take the leftover of the twine and we are gonna fold it over twice. And then we're gonna thread it through this little hole. And this is the hardest part of this card. And I'm just gonna pinch it a little bit so it'll feed through this hole. And I wanna feed it through the top to the bottom. So I'm just gonna take it and just push it through, just like that, right? And then I'm just going to open it up so I've got a loop. And this is in the back, and I'm just gonna take all of this stuff here and thread it through the loop. Just like that. And then I'm gonna pull it. And I'll pull it pretty tight. And you're gonna make your little. Now, what you can do is take a little piece of the jeweler's dot, and I'm doing a quarter. And this will just, sometimes you don't have to do this, and you probably don't. Might be overkill, but what I'm doing is I'm just putting a little piece on the back just to hold everything down, and I'm gonna leave the liner on it. And that's just holding this little knot in place. And there are different ways that you can do this. This is the way I like to do it. I think it looks really cute this way. And now I'm gonna trim it. And you can trim it on the card or off the card, but I'm gonna trim it right now, and I'm gonna give it probably about an inch, you know, and I could trim that shorter, but I like that. I think that looks cute. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna attach this with a puffy dot because I want even more dimension. And I want it a little off the edge of the card, so I'm covering up that circle with all that ribbon on it. And boom, this is card number 2. Looks great. So the next card we're gonna do is card number 3, and that is this lovely sort of double heart here with a flower, and we've got our little signature gem on here, which I will show you how to do later. So let's get started with card number 3. So I'm gonna start with the images. And what I've got here is I have the large heart that's gonna go underneath. I've got the heart with the cabbage roses that will go on the top. And then I've got this darling little flower that sort of goes throughout with this collection, that's gonna go on the side. So the first thing is you're gonna trim everything off. There we go. Okay, so now we have our 3 pieces, right? And we are going to go ahead and put, this goes on the craft color, right? This one goes on the magenta pink color, and I'll go ahead and we'll put this flower on here like this. So So let's go ahead and glue those down. Yeah, and I think that looks pretty good. So, okay, so now we're gonna assemble our card, and we're going to get, okay, so we have this card here, and we have this little bump here, and you want the bump side facing up. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna match up my corners here, and then I'm gonna take my bone folder and burnish it down, just like that. And now I've got my surface that I can work on. And basically what it comes down to is that you can look at this and you can eyeball it. At this point, you really know what you're doing here with these cards. So what I'm gonna do is I wanna center this sort of from side to side. I'm going to give it a little more space on the bottom, and that's important because you want to, this is called weighting the bottom, and it's W-E-I-G-H-T-E-D. And what you're doing is that if you center it, right, it will look as if it's shorter this way than this way. And if you give it a little bit extra here, then it will look like it's even. So you always want to do that if that's the effect you're going for. Sometimes it might not be what you're trying to do. Okay, and then I'm just coming around here, just like this, and I'm just gonna go like this, and I'm gonna take this and push down, centering side to side and giving a little more space down here. Now this is up with the puffy dots, and we also have the situation with the ribbon. And I love this ribbon. It's very simple, and yet it looks, I just think it looks really cool. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna cut this piece in half here. And the first piece I think I'm gonna put down is this one. It doesn't really matter what order you put it in, and I want all the leaves going in the same direction. You don't necessarily have to do that. And I think I want to use a sticky dot, and you always use the sticky dot when you're doing this because this will really hold the ribbon. The paper tape won't really hold the ribbon properly. So I look at this and I see that I want to put the dot sort of right here. So what I do is I turn it over and I keep track of that spot with my finger. And then the hard part, of course, is peeling the little liner off. The little orange liner. Come on. I think I'm getting close here. There we go. Okay. Now, I want to make this go in this direction, right? And I want it to go across like this. Now, there's extra leaves here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut one of these leaves off, right? And I'm going to trim this down a little bit. And I'm going to hold it on here again. When you're working with these leaves, it's a little bit, you have to sort of fit it. And I think I want to cut this leaf off here. This one right here. Okay? So I'll do that. I'm going to cut that off. And I'm going to trim this down. And I want them all to go in the same direction. So sometimes you have to untuck them a little bit. And I'm just going to center this right here like this, right? So it's holding on there. And now I'm going to put another dot. And it's cute the way it goes off the edge here. I like that. I want that to happen. But I've got to put a dot there. So that's going to go right there. And so when I fold it over, it will catch it. Okay. And I'm going to check it from the front first. And I'm actually going to work from the front and go like that. So there's my first little green piece of the ribbon that's going on this heart. Now I want another one that's going at an angle this way. And so the first thing I'll do is kind of figure out this end. And I think I'll just go ahead and trim this off because I know I need to get rid of these leaves here a little bit. And I'm going to put that, because I want this to go probably like this, right? So I'm just going to attach that. And now and this comes wrapped on a roll, so sometimes it's really kind of crazy the way it comes off. So, okay, so what I want is, I think I want to trim it here, and I want to take this leaf off, right? There we go. And you want to make sure that sometimes the leaves are sort of underneath. You want to make sure that they're all untucked here. So I'm just going through and untucking these guys. There we go. All right. And I'm going to hold that like that so I can see where I want to put my dot. And the hard part, peeling that layer off. And it is really hard. And these are very static electricity, these little layers, and I walk around with these dots all over me. Okay. And I think I want that to go just like that, right around. So it's sticking on just like that. Now this will really hold that. Now what you can do is you can just go in and sort of mess with these leaves. If you want to, you can glue them down with a little bit of paper tape, but in general you don't really need to do that. They'll flatten out also, especially when you put them in the envelope. And it gives it a little life too, the way they sort of move around. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we are going to take our puffy dots. And if you need to, you can also trim this off a little bit. You don't have to, just to neaten it up on the back. But I think we're good. And you can just put the dots over the ribbon. There we go. And now we're going to push this down just like that. There we go. And now what we're going to do is we're going to glue down our little flower. And it's the same thing we did before. We want the strong dot underneath here, and I think I'll use a half a dot. And what I do is when I'm trimming these dots, I can leave them on the sheet of paper, right? So if you don't cut all the way through, then you can use everything. So I ended up with like quarter dots, half dots, whatever. So let me make sure I'm putting it on the right, because I have put this wrong. So I know that that's going to go down there. That's how I like that. So I'm going to put that, let's put that just like that, right? And then we're going to put a couple of the puffy dots, just a few, on the other side. So I'm putting one underneath here, right? And that's actually really all you need. You could use another puffy dot, but we're going to just go with the one this time. The single dot. Okay, and I want to just tuck it underneath the heart just like that. And I think that looks pretty cute. I'll take my bone folder, and I'm just going to get in there and really make sure that attaches. But I'll tell you, if you're using the super sticky dots, that will hold on. Now, on the leaves, you can, if you want to, you could put a little bit of the, and this actually comes off, so I could just go like this. There we go. To attach this down, if you wanted to. And I could do the same thing here. I'm just gonna do a little. Just taking a little piece of that and putting it on there. And honestly, you don't really need to do that because, as I said, it will flatten out. Okay, so now we have our card without the little signature gem, and we will get started on number 4. Okay, so now we're gonna get started on number 4, and that is, this might be my favorite card in the group. I'm not 100% certain, but I love this card. I like the way this looks like it's sort of a faux necklace hanging up. If the recipient wanted to actually break this apart, I don't know why they would because it's so beautiful, but if they did want to pull everything apart, they could take this apart and wear this. It would be a nice thing. So we're gonna do card number 4. And we're starting out with our images. And we have the large flower, right? We have the game piece. And then this is going to be for the pendant or the embellishment here. So I'm going to set this one aside. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. And there we go. And now this is cut out. And on this one, we've got the pink underneath the green. And I just love these two colors together. I love this sort of hot, sort of magenta, deep magenta with this chartreusey green. It's one of my favorite color combinations. And I've got this one, and I'm gonna put this down here, again, to conserve the paper, because I might be using this in one of my other cards, or I have one more card left, and I think I do need it for that. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is glue these down. So there we have our fantastic flower, and then our game board. And notice that there's a number 4 on here, and that is where we are going to glue down the embellishment. So the next thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna make our little embellishment here. And you already know about this. You know how to do this. Here's my tray. Here's my glass. Now this is a rather large piece of glass. And I'm looking here, and I'm gonna choose one of these. I already have the happy birthday, so I'm gonna make this one. Make sure you cut it with enough salvage around the edge so the adhesive can ooze out the sides. Remember to work on a hard surface, right? And what you want to do is you want to make sure that on this one, because it's a square, you want to make sure that you get it into the corners, the fantastic glazing glue. And you don't want too much on here, but you want enough so it does come out the sides. So what I've done is all 4 corners and then one in the center, sort of some in the center. And again, I'm just gonna push down on it. And the table, the hard surface of the table is what forces, with you pushing down on it, forces everything, all the air bubbles out. And it just amplifies everything. I just love this. Every time I make one of these, it's like I've never done it before, and I just love it. All right, because we have a larger surface here, we're gonna put 2 of our jeweler's dots in here, our fantastic sticky dots. Okay, and then I just put that in place, and now we're ready to assemble our card. You can see how this is going to layer together. And it's nice because you've got different things going. What makes this card so nice and interesting is that you've got the multiple layers. The other thing that I like is that the ribbon's still loose. It's not glued down too much. I think sometimes we make mistakes with using too much glue. So you take your card blank, and again, it's just folding it in half and forcing the corners into place with the bump side up, right? And I'm just gonna work, and remember you work on this area of your bone folder, and you just come in, and these are made of plastic, but they used to just be made of bone. They were used by bookbinders. So now we have our canvas and we're going to start creating our card here. And we've got our layout, and I'm looking at this distance here and this distance here, right? And I'm also paying close attention to how that's gonna lay out, because I don't want this hanging off the edge, and I don't want it too close to the edge. So I sort of lay everything out. And I think that that will work right there. Now you can change it up, you can move it around however you want, but this is the layout that I'm gonna go with, and I kind of like this. So what I do is, the next thing that I'm going to do is attach the this embellishment onto the ribbon, because I have to glue this down first because the ribbon has to wrap around the edge. So I've got my fabulous super sticky dots here, and I'm just gonna put one right here on the number 4. And then the hard part is peeling the darn thing off. There we go. And I'm just gonna stick that down about where I think I want it. And you might have to pick it up and push it on to the piece, because there's a little dimension on the back here. There we go. So now that is attached, right? And that's not going anywhere, believe it or not. And then I'm gonna take my pink ribbon, and I love, love, love this ribbon. And I'm just gonna thread it through. There we go. Okay. And I'm just gonna get it into place here the way I like it. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. All right. And you're going to sort of use this ribbon to tell you where to put, because you're gonna put a couple of sticky dots on the back of this piece. So I'll just go like this. So that tells me, okay, the general vicinity of where this stuff is going. One right there. And again, this does not have to be perfect, because there's lots of room and there's lots of tack on here. And now what I'm gonna do, these are essential for making cards, I think, because this part, the paper adhesive will not hold. You'll have your cards fall apart in the mail over time, and you really do, there are a couple of places where you really need a strong adhesive, and this is one of them. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this and put that there like that, and then I'm gonna pull it a little tight, not too tight though, and I'm gonna attach that to the top, just like that. And now I'm just gonna trim that off. Just like that. Okay, so now I have my whole piece sort of put together with the embellishment. And I'm gonna be gluing this down. I'm gonna try it out again and really paying attention to the space here. And I want a little overlap with my flower, right? And I'm paying attention to this space here where it's a little tight, but I like that. I think that looks good right there. So I'm going to remember this space, and I'm gonna remember this space here, right? Just those two spaces. And if you get those right, these will be right. So I'm looking at this, I'm looking at that. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm gonna add some more of the sticky dots, because I need that down here to hold this piece down, right? And I also am gonna double up on these where the ribbon is, because again, that will pull off, but now it won't if you just use the paper adhesive here. And I'll tell you, the right adhesive is a good thing for sure, right? And then I'm just gonna peel this one off. And now I'm gonna apply my paper adhesive. And this is a little trickier because I've got to hold it up because there's dimension and you don't want to really push on it on the table. Well, I guess you can do it a little bit. But just don't ruin your card doing this. Have a light touch, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So we have the sticky dots here, here, and here, right? And the paper adhesive everywhere else, and I'm going to pay attention, right? And I'm just going to glue the whole piece down. There we go. And this is really securely in place. It should stay where it is. And now we've got our fabulous flower that we are going to put down here, and we're going to raise it up with our puffy dots. And I'm just going to go around, being mindful of, you know, the points on the leaves, right? So I think what I'm going to do is hit the pointy places first, and then fill in. So here, they're all off here, and then I'm just going to come along and place my little flower, or my big flower in this case. And I think I like it right here. Now I'm very short and I like to stand over things and look down on them. And sometimes it's easier to do that. Okay, so this is our card number 4 and we'll get started on card number 5. And remember, we're gonna do our little signature gems at the end. Okay. So we're going to do card number 5 now, which I love. Well, actually, I love all these cards. I think these are sweet. And this, you have the full view of the cabbage roses, and this is nice. Friends always. I think I might send this to my dear friend Barbara. But so we're going to get started on number 5. So I'm going to put that card over here, and I have our images right here. And this is going to be for the piece of glass. So what I'm going to do is set this aside here. And we're just going to go ahead and cut out our last set of images. Do that. And now we're going to glue this down on our last magenta sheet. And I've got a little left over here of the heart, so that's gonna go, I'm gonna put it on here, on the craft. There we go. Okay. So now I need to make my embellishment here, and that should be pretty easy at this point. That's our last one, and this is a medium round. And I wanna work on the hard surface. And I've got Friends Always, so I have the choice. I think I'm going to use, you know what, I think I'll try the Happy Birthday. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, so there's that little piece. And now we're gonna put our card together. And I have my card here. Okay, and what I'm going to do, I've got my little palette that I'm working on, which is my card, and I'm going to sort of lay everything out. You want to sort of lay stuff out. Yep. So it fits like that. And we've got to do our ribbon now. And the way you're going to do that is you're going to put a dot sort of right in the center of this. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then you're going to take the ribbon and you just want to create a little, just like this, right? So you've got the loop here, and I'm going to take this and I'm just gonna push down on it and the dot catches it. You might need to add another dot, and I think I'm gonna do that. So I've got the one here, and I'll add another dot on top of that. And then this ribbon's not going anywhere. Sometimes you can get away without having another dot on here. Okay. So now I have to redo my ribbon. And it's gonna be just like that. There we go. And it's just gonna go over like this and then come off the edge. Just like that. Okay, so I'm gonna glue this down first. And this is gonna go up off of the card, so we're gonna use our dots, our puffy dots. And again, I'm going to put the dots in the critical spots, probably here. I think I wanna put one here, but actually, you know what? Do you notice how I'm overlapping the ribbon and the cardstock? I think that's what you want to do, just like that, because that's going to help hold that ribbon down more as well. And I'm doing the same thing down here, and I've got one here. So I've got a lot of dots on the back here. Yep, and that's super cute. All right, and I'm just gonna center this from side to side. The bottom's not as critical because, you know, it can really go anywhere. But I want it to go right here. And then I'm gonna put my happy birthday there. And I've got a little bit of glaze and glue on the front here. I'm just gonna let that dry. And then I'm gonna scrape that off with an X-Acto. So I think I'll put that right there. I mean, you can do anything. You know, really play around with it. And you just need one of these because these are super strong. And put that on there. Just right there. I like it right there. And then I'm going to trim my ribbon. And there you go. Another wonderful card. And that is number 5. And now we're going to do our signature gems. And let's talk about that a little bit. You're going to start with, you've got all your little pieces of glass here. And you've got your choices of hearts or handmade. And so what you need to do is you need to go through all your cards and kind of figure out what you're gonna do with your signature gems. I'm just gonna go through, and I think on this one, I think that I want to do a little pink one, and I wanna put it here. Now you can put them wherever you want. I mean, it doesn't matter. So I think I want this one to say handmade. So I'm gonna put that there. And then this one, I think that I want to do a green one, little heart. No, I think I want a pink heart. And I think I might put it there, maybe. I mean, you can put them anywhere on the cards. And then this one, I think I'll do the green handmade. And I'm gonna put that, I think I wanna put that maybe up here. Or it could go down here where the signature goes. And then I think on this one, I think I wanna do a green one. And we'll do the green heart. And then on this one, I'm going to do a pink handmade. Okay. So you're going to work on your scrap paper. And we're going to make all these little, and you have to have some Q-tips to clean up around. And I'm going to take my glaze and glue. And it's super simple. You're just going to put a little tiny blob on here, not too big, but remember you want it to ooze out the sides. And then you're going to clean up around the edge. And then trim all the way around. Okay, so now I've got my little signature gem and I want to attach it to my card, right? And I mean, you can put it anywhere. You could put it up here. Actually, that's kind of nice. But I'm actually going to put this one over here, I think. Just like that. But again, you can put them anywhere. But what you have to do is you're going to use 1/4 of a super sticky dot. And the secret is to keep it all on one sheet. So what I'll do is I'll just go in and I'll trim. And you see how it stays on the sheet? So you're just going to take it. And then peel it off. Okay. There we go. And then I'm just going to put my little signature on there. Because you worked hard on this card, right? And it tells everyone this is a handmade card. But isn't that lovely? So that is a Royal Hearts card kit, and you should have 5 fabulous cards, layered, dimensional, beautiful cards that you can mail. And visit us at craftfantastic.com. And I just want to remind everybody that we really heart you guys and we appreciate your business, your support, your comments, but you can visit us at craftfantastic.com. So have a happy day and make sure it's creative and keep on crafting.